Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Speaking of CP3 and the Golden State Warriors, we'll go ahead and move on to them now. So a couple weeks ago, breaking news that shocked the internet, news that shocked the media world. Jordan Poole got traded from the Golden State Warriors to the Washington Wizards for Chris Paul. The Wizards did receive Patrick Baldwin Jr., Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, a 2027 second round pick, a 2030 first round pick, and cash considerations. And the Warriors only received Chris Paul in this trade. And so, I guess, what are the Warriors thinking?
Draymond came on the podcast P, and he was essentially talking about like their biggest issue come playoff time was a lack of variety in terms of their scoring, which it is kind of true. Like outside of like Steph, where he was just coming off ball screens, or maybe when they really did run Steph pick and rolls, it was just like there's a lot of staleness to the Warriors offense, and it got stifled by the Lakers defense. The Lakers defense was elite, but it just felt like the Warriors offense just didn't have counters. And you watch the Denver series versus the Lakers, they had a lot more counters and how they were able to score. And Draymond was talking about how CP3 is going to come in, and he's going to essentially provide a different level of scoring, or different level of offense, or another variety to this team, whether that's through the pick and roll, controlling the pace, setting the tone. But it's just, I just don't know how it's going to work, considering the fact that the Warriors are like almost dead last always in terms of running pick and roll, and there's no real like role big man on this team outside of Kevon Looney. I just don't understand how CP3's game translates on this Warriors team. He's not a movement type of guy. Defensively, it's not as much there anymore. As a playmaker, I still think he's extremely strong. But he doesn't create as many advantages as he does, previously. So I'm curious about how they're going to essentially try to fit CP3 into the system. I've heard he might be running the bench unit. He might be starting. I don't know how that is going to essentially look with a Steph and CP3 lineup in crunch time. Because when you have CP3 on the floor, what does he offer to this Warrior system? Clay's a movement shooter. Steph's a movement shooter. Wiggins is a cutter. He's a spot up shooter. Draymond's their main playmaker. So where does that leave Draymond in the mix if they essentially have a CP3 lineup and Draymond's in there as well? What role does Draymond play if he's not the playmaker on offense? And we know he's not much of a scoring threat these days. So it's just a confusing move. I don't know what I really thought it was going to be a move for them to trade. Afterwards, they're going to just ship CP3 off for some depth or something. But it seems like they're hell bent on making this work with CP3, and I just don't see it.
The main reason for the Warriors, I feel like, their rim pressure was probably dead last in the league. It was one of the worst. And then for them to make this move for CP3, it just, I don't know. To me, you still have size difference. You don't have no bigs. You don't have a great center that can score, that can give you another option. And it's the same type of offense. You guys got a bunch of movement shooters. You got Clay, Steph. How's it going to work with CP3 just holding the ball most of the time, trying to pick and roll? Who's he going to pick and roll with? So for me, it's going to be a different look of the Warriors. CP3 in the interview, I think earlier today, said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be coming off the bench. Me and Steve Kerr haven't talked about that, but he tried to imply that he's a starter. I don't see him starting at all. I see him coming off the bench, but we'll see what happens. For me, I felt like they could have waited. They could have got more for Jordan Poole. They could have got better players. I mean, Jordan Poole, a young player like that, helped win the finals. I feel like they could have got a better package, but hey, they settled on CP3. It's a small team again. Kevon Looney's your biggest man. He's 6'9", 6'8". Draymond's your second biggest guy. Dario Saric, I feel like he's a soft center, so he's another center that just stretches the floor, likes to stay at the three-point line. So we'll see what happens. But to me, I don't like this move. I don't like this move for the Warriors. I feel like they didn't hit the objectives that they needed to fix in the offseason, implying that, you got to fix up on your rim pressure. And like they hit a wall against the Lakers. It was pretty tough for them. They, second offensive changes they couldn't make. It was one step and then, hey, they're stuck at that step and they couldn't make it to the second step. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe it's a move to bolster their bench. I guess the idea for them is to help their bench unit control the offense a little bit more. Like they don't really shoot the mid range as much as they should have. I guess they brought in CP3 for this variety of like a pick and roll and like the mid range shot. He's like essentially, I think the idea for the Warriors is for him to improve like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody's play getting them into easier spots. It's just I get the idea. Like it took me a while to accept the fact that okay, this is what they're trying to do. They want to add more variety. They want a different taste to what the Warriors offense is, because when the Warriors weren't hitting threes against the Lakers, they literally could not do anything. They were stuck. Like the Lakers had a lot more variety in how they were scoring. They were getting inside. They're getting to the free throw line. You had people complaining, why the Lakers keep getting free throws. It's just the Warriors weren't getting rim pressure. Like it's literally a difference. The Lakers were getting to the rim. The Warriors weren't getting to the rim. When Clay went literally missing the last 4 games, when Steph couldn't hit his threes, where was the offense coming from the Warriors? So I guess their idea is like CP3 comes in with the bench unit. He helps control the pace. He runs a pick and roll. He gets guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody in easier spots, which I understand because Jordan Poole is a little erratic like last season. Like he wasn't really controlling the bench,
He was just looking to score, to be honest. That was his main option. He was just coming on to score. But I do want to see Steve Kerr actually give, Moses Moody and Kuminga an opportunity to play.
I think he's kind of forced now.
He's kind of forced to now. Last year, he was just mostly dependent on the older guys and running the same lineup and just throwing in Jordan Poole off the bench. And not a lot of guys off the bench were getting minutes. But I feel like he has to trust these young guys. Kuminga, Moses Moody, athletic guys, some guys that can stretch the floor for the Warriors, can play defense. And we'll see what CP3 does with the bench unit. But I don't know, man. I feel like Jordan Poole, you could have got more.
They could have got more for Jordan Poole. And they didn't even necessarily have to trade him. If they didn't have to move off of him. It didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense to me then. It didn't make any sense to me now. I think 3 days into Mike Dunleavy's tenure as GM for the Golden State Warriors, and he makes a move like this, I think it's pretty much a recipe for disaster. I believe I had a clip in October when Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole, and I said something along the lines of that Draymond Green has done a lot more harm than good for the Warriors franchise. And, a lot of people had mixed feelings about that, but here we are now. We have the 2016 NBA Finals where he gets suspended, and we have the whole Kevin Durant situation, and now he's ran Jordan Poole out of town. The Warriors had to make a decision between, Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. They weren't going to go into another season with those two guys not on talking terms and not on speaking terms. And so it's like they had to pick and choose, and they chose the guy that they've been rocking with for forever over a guy that's going to be their future, the guy that Steph's supposed to hand the keys to in about 3-4 years' time. And so, it is what it is at this point, but I think as of right now, I'm very confident in saying that the Golden State Warriors will probably never win a championship again in the Steph, Clay, and Dre era. I think their window is completely closed now with this move. CP3 is 38 years old. He's only getting older. You can't really rely on him at any point in the playoffs, and so it's like even if they get there, which I believe they'll probably will as like a play-in team this upcoming year. CP3 is not going to provide much for this team, and they already have a lot of depth issues because they pay a whole lot of their guys. You have Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond Green, and now you add Chris Paul into the mix, who's also on the last year of his contract. And so it's like the Warriors right now, they're kind of clueless. They have no sense of direction, and like the same problems they had last year, they're gonna have it this year. They still have a lack of depth. They still don't have a strong bench core like they did in previous years, and so they're just going back to war, relying heavily on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to bail these guys out. And I just don't think that's going to be the recipe for winning basketball games for this Warriors team. I understand that they just won a ring 2 years ago, but here we are now after getting cooked last year by the Lakers. You want to be able to improve on that, and they made pretty much no improvements. They didn't make any crazy moves in free agency. The only move that they made was signing with Dario Saric and now after Chris Paul. So it's just like I don't understand this move whatsoever. I think the Wizards came up on this guy. I think they came up big in this trade. They got a lot of assets, a lot of picks. Even if those players that after Jordan Poole don't pan out, like Ryan Rollins or Patrick Baldwin, they have the draft capital and they have Jordan Poole, who's already kind of made a name for himself in this league, and he could take his game to the next level. Now he's being put in a different situation where he's going to be in more leadership roles. He's going to have to, command an offense. He's going to have to lead that team along with Kyle Kuzma. And so it's Jordan Poole. He ended up in the best situation possible for him. He's going to be the lead guy in Washington. He's going to be a guy that's probably going to average about 23 to 25 points per game because he's going to have the freedom to do whatever he wants. And so, it's good for him, but for the Warriors to kind of pick a side and keep Draymond Green and move Jordan Poole off to the side is kind of like, it is what it is. At what point does it stop? Because you just paid this guy, you paid Draymond Green another $100 million contract, and now he's locked in for another 4 years, I believe, 3-4 years. So this pretty much is the end of the road for the Golden State Warriors. If it didn't hit you, when the Lakers beat them, it's gonna hit you now. Let it hit you now. It's gonna hit you this entire season when Warrior fans are gonna be trying to be optimistic with the whole CP3 situation. I just can't see it happening. So, they'll probably be, like I said, they'll be a playing team at best. If they're anything, they'll probably be dangling between 6 and 7. But that it is what it is at that point. So the Wizards did a hell of a job at acquiring Jordan Poole, and although they're going in a rebuild direction, it doesn't hurt to start off with Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma as your 2 cornerstone pieces. And so
record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.